friends. Looks like we've got company. Don't let them spoil our big day. Crank those murder dials to 11 and converge on the interlopers.
Ollie Welsh, we went to play a little bit of Battleborn the other day. How did you find it?
It's an odd one. So it is, as they Gearbox, the developer, freely admits, a bit of a genre mashup of a game, and it's a real kitchen sink of multiplayer gaming ideas. It's got stuff from predominantly, noticeably from MOBAs, from games like League of Legends and Heroes of the Storm in there, but a whole bunch of other stuff going on. And they're obviously also trying to stress the family resemblance it has to Borderlands, being the Gearbox game that everybody likes.
I am Arachnus, the Spider King, Lord of all spiders.
No, not today, okay? You're not a Spider King. You're an S1 Sentry unit, and your name is Jeff.
So it is, yeah. I don't know. It took a little while to get a feel for it. We started out with a co-op match, which I wasn't quite sure about. But once we got into multiplayer, even though multiplayer isn't really my thing, competitive that is, I started to get a bit of a better feeling for the game. How did you feel about it?
I enjoyed it. Like you, the single-player campaign really didn't gel with me too much. It felt so similar to Borderlands in presentation and voice acting and humour that at certain points I forgot I wasn't playing Borderlands.
Doesn't that sound awesome? You bet your firm, toned butts it does.
There's not been too much kind of buzz about this game as far as I'm aware, and I almost think they should have rebranded it as a Borderlands game, but it really shone when we started playing the multiplayer, and it was the Capture and Meltdown modes we got to try.
Yeah, so Capture was a fairly standard 3-point capture map, really basic FPS stuff, but pretty well implemented, and it was the best. It was the best arena for getting a feel for how the heroes work in Battleborn, and this is where the MOBA comparison is strongest, right? So you've got these very sort of strongly defined cartoony heroes. They have very different flavors. But they broadly break down into damage, support, and tanking. And each one has, as well as their sort of signature weapon, has a couple of signature skills, and the real MOBA bit is that they level up over the course of a match. So while you're playing a single match, you'll go through levels pretty quickly, every sort of 30 seconds or so to a minute. And as you gain new levels, you unlock perks for your character, and once you get to, I think it was level 5, you get like a super special ability as well. All your abilities are on cooldown, so that's another MOBA thing going on there, and you're also like harvesting resources to invest in unlocking the perks you've unlocked from your loot. So yeah, there's a lot of MOBA type stuff. I think you can overstress the comparison though, because the map mechanics are probably a bit more like a first-person shooter than they are a MOBA.
Yeah, Gearbox did stress that they thought it more as a first-person shooter.
It's definitely an FPS, like in terms of gameplay style, it's definitely FPS first and foremost. But a lot of the trappings come from MOBA and from MMOs as well. Like the lead designer who I talked to was saying that they were quite influenced by World of Warcraft in a lot of what they were doing. So yeah, I really enjoyed playing Capture. We were quite lucky because we were on a team with some pretty skilled pro players, so we were absolutely bossing it until they brought some Gearbox staffers onto the other team to give us a fair match. But it was a lot of fun, and so when I interviewed him, the producer said there were 2 reasons they made this game after Borderlands, 2 things that they couldn't do with Borderlands. One was melee, they just never got it right. And so one of the characters I tried whilst we were playing Capture was this guy called Wrath. He's a sort of creepy looking dude who's got red swords. And he was actually really good fun to play, really effective. And first person melee isn't easy to get right, and there were signs that they were doing it pretty well with him.
I tried the first person melee with the dwarf character, and I couldn't get on with it. My favourite character was the guy with a minigun, and I kind of stood back and just dealt damage from behind.
So I like Wrath. I thought he worked pretty well. He's got some sort of mid-range skills as well, which I think you need in an FPS.
So what did you make of the third mode we played, Meltdown? That was the mode the developers at the event were trying to sell to us as their favourite game mode, but I found it all a little bit confusing on my first go, and it did take me a few matches to get into the swing of things.
The concept of the map is you have these little streams of robotic minions, and they're all heading towards these sort of recycling centres where they're going to get recycled. And you having to defend yours and stop the other guys from getting theirs to theirs. So this is probably the closest it's got to a MOBA map mechanic, with little AI creatures following set paths who you need to protect, and they'll sort of attack each other, but they don't really figure into the match between you and the other guys that much. It was really noticeable with this one that while we were playing straightforward capture, were communicating a lot and felt like really plugged into each other and really doing well, because they knew how the map mechanics worked on a game like that. Everybody was really quiet for that first round, and I felt like nobody really knew how to do it.
To be honest, I don't really play MOBAs, so game modes like that, are kind of alien to me anyway.
It's a little bit hard. The reason I think that it takes a little while to click is that when you've got that kind of mechanic in a MOBA, you're looking at the map from the top down. You can easily zoom around it. You can see where the creeps are going. Those are the little dudes, and you can sort of track the overall flow of the battle. It's much harder in an FPS game to track that, and they give you a fairly detailed mini map on it. But it does feel a bit like it does feel like it's a little bit harder to get a sense of the ebb and flow of the match than you would like. So the interesting thing for me with this game is that there's actually a few games like it in production right now, but there are very few games like it that are out there in the real world. I guess the closest thing you've got is a team shooter like Team Fortress 2, but that's probably closer to a pure FPS than this is. You've also got Overwatch, which is Blizzard's new game that's currently in development, which is a very similar kind of deal. Hero shooters, very focused on having a large range of playable heroes with sort of defining skills. Bethesda also had one called Battle Cry in development, which was confusing the hell out of all games journalists, because we kept saying Battleborn when we meant Battle Cry and vice versa. But they've just said that they have not shelved exactly, but they are reviewing development on that game, so there's a sense that it's maybe not working out the way they'd hoped it was.
Right.
But there's this sort of nascent genre of people trying to splice MOBA with FPS, and I am absolutely certain that what they're all gunning for is esports. Weirdly, like, FPS is not as big a thing in esports as it used to be. Like, even though Quake was probably one of the most influential games in founding professional gaming, these days, and there was a Halo scene for a while. These days, Counter-Strike Global Offensive is big. Call of Duty is big-ish, but only really because Activision push it so hard. You can't even begin to compare even Counter-Strike with the success of games like League of Legends and StarCraft in esports. And I'm convinced that this is what all of these guys are shooting for, is to try and get a game that will work with esports. And to get a game that works with esports, it needs to be constantly evolving. It needs to have a meta, as they say. And this, I think, is where the loot comes in. The loot is another one of those lifts you find in this game that you think, oh, this looks familiar. It's like you earn currency which you can trade in for packs, and you open these with great ceremony in a little sort of animation that's straight out of Hearthstone or FIFA Ultimate Team, to find out what you've got in your packs, and they're little packs of perks that might give you some additional damage, or like under certain conditions when your shield is full, for example. Or they might give you increased movement speed after you land a hit on a member of the enemy team, something like that. and they come in varying levels of quality and power. And they're obviously designed to get people like making YouTube videos of them opening packs, and to add a layer of sort of balancing complexity that will get people talking.
There was no info from the developers that I got whether or not there'd be actual microtransactions involved. It looks like something they try and sell to us.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they didn't allow you to buy the currency you use to buy the packs. But I would also question whether they would make that much money if they do that, because they didn't really feel that exciting. I'm sure that cleverly employed, these little perks will have can have quite a big impact on your character, but they're one of like multiple layers of tweaking and of advancement you've got going on, even within a single match. And they're not automatically activated at the start of a match. You've got to harvest the resource, which I think was called Amber, in order to get enough to unlock your loot perks within the match. So it's one of those things where I feel like they've just got maybe a few too many different things going on. But then again, I'm not a designer of massively successful competitive multiplayer games, and from what I understand of the MOBA scene, which is not that much, the audience just completely laps up these layers of complexity, and that's what the current shooters are missing. So they're very sort of tactical, and they've got very good Twitch gameplay, but they don't have that sort of strategic layer of how you develop your character over the course of a match. So, I don't know, it might work. I've got to say, if I was going to bet on someone to make this work, it would be Blizzard. I know I'm a known Blizzard fanboy, but they do have form.
I was going to say, actually, have you played Overwatch at all?
I played it briefly at BlizzCon when they announced it last year. It is about to go into beta, and I believe we're going to get keys quite soon. So hopefully we'll be playing it on the team pretty soon, and I think it's going to make a fascinating comparison with Battleborn. I can't wait to see how it works out. I think it's probably going to be a bit more of a streamlined game. I don't think it has the in-match leveling, for example, and it's a bit more. It's probably a bit closer on that sort of spectrum to the Team Fortress end than the MOBA end of things. But it's going to be fascinating to see how it pans out. But the heroes were beautiful to play, and the skills were so clever. And this is where a developer like Gearbox is always going to be up against it when they're competitors of Blizzard. These people have been designing like clever and attention-grabbing skills for multiplayer games for like 20, 30 years. So they sort of know how to do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on Battleborn with us.
No worries.
If you guys enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more from Eurogamer. Goodbye.
Bye.
Darkness is closing in. I'm so afraid to die. You're swell. Fire my mark.
I have hit your death.
get the catapult set up
Right,
first.
so elbow to cow,
Oh god.
and then cow to speakers, is it?
Yeah, I think so. Ooh, this could go bad. We cool,
Okay,
guys.
good.
We
Yeah,
cool.
we're good. We're good.
Everyone's-